Hi, I'm Ronald Pope, the current president of the Barbados Society of Psychology. The topic of narcissism and parental alienation is one that's dear to me. In this profession, I get to meet a lot of individuals who were once in relationships with narcissists. One of the most concerning aspects of being in a relationship with a narcissist are the long-term effects it has on the victim. These individuals can sometimes have serious trust issues, poor self-efficacy, constant and unnecessary overthinking, just to name a few. These issues can sometimes affect a victim for a very long time, causing long-term mental health challenges. Therefore, education on this topic is a must. As it relates to parental alienation, this is an ever-growing issue in our society. It is also at this stage the narcissist blames the other partner for the family breakup, thereby causing confusion and self-doubt, this time within the mind of the child. Therefore, as a society, it is essential we become educated on these topics. Hi, I'm Ronald Pope, the current president of the Barbados Society of Psychology. The topic of narcissism and parental alienation is one that's dear to me. In this profession, I get to meet a lot of individuals who were once in relationships with narcissists. One of the most concerning aspects of being in a relationship with a narcissist are the long-term effects it has on the victim. These individuals can sometimes have serious trust issues, poor self-efficacy, constant and unnecessary overthinking, just to name a few. These issues can sometimes affect a victim for a very long time, causing long-term mental health challenges. Therefore, education on this topic is a must. As it relates to parental alienation, this is an ever-growing issue in our society. It is also at this stage the narcissist blames the other partner for the family breakup, thereby causing confusion and self-doubt, this time within the mind of the child. Therefore, as a society, it is essential we become educated on these topics.
We're Family Fest, giving our best, empowering families to be the pillars of society. Family Fest, bringing healing and rest to hurting families, bringing help, hope, healing, happiness. With God on our side, we're marching strong, looking out for hurting children all around. Parents carry on, standing united we'll overcome. We're Family Fest, giving our best, empowering families to be the pillars of society. Family Fest, bringing healing and rest to hurting families, bringing help, hope, healing, happiness. Bringing help, hope, healing, happiness. Bringing help, hope, healing, happiness.
And a blessed good night to you. It is a beautiful Thursday, the 4th of July, 2024. And I am your moderator for this evening's discussion, Graham Vaughan. Welcome to Family Fest Barbados 2024. This year, we are focusing on the topic of narcissism and parental alienation. And we're looking forward to a very in-depth discussion this evening. We started on Tuesday with a general look at narcissism and parental alienation. And you may go on our social media pages and find links to be able to follow that discussion at your convenience. However, this evening we're ready to get started, and we want to get into it as soon as we can. Of course, remember that you can give us feedback on our YouTube page and on our Facebook page as you follow along with the discussion. We're looking forward to your questions. We're looking forward to your queries and everything that you have to say about this very important and very dangerous issue of narcissism and parental alienation. This evening, we want to focus on the victims of parental alienation. And as the pressures of keeping families together continues to grow, the issue of parental alienation continues to be of growing concern. Apart from the conflict in homes and the breakup of families, we see a growing trend of children choosing to alienate parents with which they previously had sound relationships. Is it the child choosing for themselves, or is someone doing the choosing for them? While everyone in parental alienation can be considered a victim, this discussion this evening will take a look at the alienated parent and the many struggles and battles involved in that position. As alienated parents continue to struggle with the pain of losing a child or children with which they previously had close, loving relationships, Authorities are also having a difficult time detecting this issue. The alienated parent is very often left alone to battle in what could feel like a quicksand situation, as help is limited, with few being able to help. Due to lack of understanding by social and legal authorities, very often the plight of alienated parents is either misdiagnosed, ignored, or overlooked. And worse yet, very often more rights, power, and encouragement are given to the alienating parent. This discussion this evening will take a look at parental alienation from the perspective of the alienated parent. Good evening and welcome. And I extend that welcome as well to our panelists. This evening we have the Reverend Jern Phils, Sinclair Brown, and Ronald Pope. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, let's get
Good evening,
straight
everyone.
into it. Good evening, good evening. Let's get straight into it. I'm going to ask you very quickly to introduce yourselves, each of you. I'm going to start with Reverend Phils. I'm going to start with you. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and introduce a quick synopsis of what you consider to be parental alienation. Okay, we're not even going to focus specifically on narcissism, but we're going to focus on parental alienation. What is it? And then we're going to move through the panel and then open the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughan, and again, good evening to my fellow panelists and all who are listening online. I'm Reverend Gerald Fields from the Methodist Church here in Barbados, and I serve in the James Street Spicetown Circuit as an itinerant presbyter. In relation to parental alienation, in my research and understanding is that parental alienation is an estrangement in relationship between child and parent due to different types of abuse. So because the term parental alienation syndrome really originated from Richard Gardner, and he makes a distinction between parental alienation and parental alienation syndrome, as parental alienation syndrome is a form of parental alienation. So the estrangement can be caused by different types of abuse, but in parental alienation syndrome, which I believe is our focus, it is a specific it's a childhood disorder that arises from one parent seeking to cause that child to buy into the campaign to be able to estrange that parent from the alienated parent from the child. And this doesn't apply to if the parent is a case where the parent previously had a bad relationship and was abusive before. So that's what I would share to begin.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Pope.
Hi, good night. Good night to everyone. It's good to be here again. I'd like to see our males in Barbados stepping up to have this discussion. So that's something I'm very happy about. We have to step up. We have to fix this issue. This is an ongoing issue that we are facing here in Barbados, and I guess the wider Caribbean as well. It is something that is affecting our young people at an incredible rate, because we see how children behaving now, and we wonder what's the root cause. And when you look at the root cause, sometimes it stems right back to parental alienation. So when we look at the victims, we can see the collateral damage, and that's the children and how they behave after
being in relationships, broken relationships, and then the parental alienation start. So parental alienation, when I look at it, it is really where one parent tries to manipulate. And I think that's a key word here, manipulate, and really try to get the child or children on their side to see things from their perspective. Well, as we say in Barbados, bad talk the other parent. Um, One of the things that comes up from that is that a lot of the times the person who does the manipulation and the person who perpetrates the parental alienation sometimes just happens to be a narcissist. And when you are in a relationship with a narcissist, you realize that they always want to they always want to win. I always say that. They always want to win. They always want to be on the winning team. They always want things to go their way. As someone who has worked with couples where one of the individuals was a narcissist and the couple did break up, there was the whole thing about parental alienation. So for me, seeing it from a psychological perspective, it is quite damaging to the couple when they break up. It's damaging to the children, their mental health. The person who is perpetrating the parental alienation, as I said, sometimes, most of the time, a lot of the times, is a narcissist, and they sometimes they are seeking revenge or seeking to get that one up. And you will hear me talk about that a little bit on tonight, where you always have this one person who wants to be the winner, who wants to have that one up without looking at the children. So they don't look at the children, they don't look at the victims. They want to be the winners, they want to have that one up, always being on top, always want to be on top. So
Okay.
I'm looking forward to this discussion tonight as we discuss these very, very, very important issues.
All right. Thank you very much. And Sinclair Brown.
Good evening once again. Blessings. In the name of Jesus. Yeah, the discussion is gonna be interesting. From my end, and I'm just taking a quote, and I think it's copted well. Is a strategy whereby one parent intentionally displays to the child unjustified negativity aimed at the other parent. And the purpose of that strategy is to damage the relationship with the other parent and turn the child's emotions against that parent. I think for me, that summarizes what I think what I see as the parental alienation. And yeah, we definitely can have a good time as men on the rock of Jesus, not men on the block, men on the rock.
Well, Sinclair, could you add to that just a little bit about yourself?
Myself, name is Sinclair Brown. Married 20 years, 3 sons, one grandson, a business, Harvey Cottage Counseling Well Care Therapy. We look at the whole person. So along with the counseling services we do, we add massage therapies to that. Looking at dietary supplementation, how those things could affect your health, your balance, hormones and stuff like that. Being a minister, obviously looking at the spiritual connotations with the counseling. So yeah, so love it, love family, love purpose. You know what I mean? Love to build people. That is me in a nutshell.
Mr. Pope, I think I was amiss in asking you to add your own background as well.
Yes. So I'm currently the president of the Barbados Society of Psychology. I've been the president now for nearly 2 years now. And we really are our organization that pushes the field of psychology across the Barbados, Caribbean as well, and tries to educate the public about mental health and psychology in its whole. For myself, I am a father. I have one daughter. I'm also a counselor within the secondary schools of Barbados. So I also work privately, so I get to meet a lot of couples and a lot of individuals who come across a little bit narcissistic.
Okay.
Yes, so
Now,
that's a bit about me.
thank you so very much. Welcome, gentlemen, again to Family Fest Barbados 2024. And as has been said, yes, we're going to have some fun, but it really is critical that this information get out, that this knowledge is shared with persons this evening and those who would follow along on the video in days and weeks to come. Now, let's dive right in. Parental alienation, you've put it together very well, I think, very succinctly. But let's look at the alienated parent. Now, I know that we did say that in a lot of cases, the person, the alienator, the person doing the damage, is a narcissist. And this is now coming to the point where this narcissism, as was discussed in our last discussion, it may have been hidden very well. Narcissists tend to be very well practiced in presenting the image that they want you to see. And then the behaviors become too much for them to control because, as was mentioned a little bit earlier, there is this overwhelming desire to win. Things must go my way. Now, talk to us about the alienated parent. They are starting to see a change. They're aware that something is wrong with their co-parent, whether or not it's a spouse, whether or not it's an ex, whether they're together or separated. They know that something is wrong. But they're now starting to realize that something is wrong with their child or children. They previously had a wonderful relationship. They looked forward to the times that they were able to see them, and they thought that they could co-parent with the other spouse and make sure that things are good for the child. Because usually a regular normal parent is thinking about the good of their child. That's what's fundamentally at the basis of everything they do. But they're starting to see a reaction from that child. Something has changed. Walk us through that first impulse, that what's going on here.
You want me to jump in?
Sure, go right ahead, please.
All right. So we're speaking about the child, or we're speaking about the other
We're
partner?
speaking about the parent, the partner.
The partner,
And
right.
they're noticing that the child is changing, or their children, hey, we've got this fair coming up. Are you ready? The enthusiasm is down. They're saying, I don't know if I want to come. And it's very unusual. Talk us through that stage of things.
Well, usually with the parent who might be or most likely will be a narcissist, they really and truly spend a lot of time manipulating the child. And we know some children are pretty easily manipulated. Narcissists can come across very charming and very charismatic sometimes. And the child might, like, fall for the romance, the beauty of what the parent is saying and the picture that's being painted. So the child becomes easily influenced. One of the things that you will see in a child is what some persons might call second guessing, where the person second guesses a lot of stuff or overthinks. So you will find that the child now starts to second guess a lot of things. They're not sure. And you can see the anxiety starting to settle in, where the child becomes quite anxious being around that particular parent and wanted to go, do, wants fun things with that parent. So the anxiety is there. The anxiety has been created by the narcissist to make the child feel very uneasy around that parent. the parent who is the victim. So when you start to look at the child and look at the child's behavior, change in behavior, you can see that overthinking and second guessing. And that is how it kinds of start because once you implant a seed, I always talk about this sort of thing. Once you implant a seed in someone's mind, it sometimes grows. And what happens is that that idea, that ideology, that mentality, that negativeness that we spoke about earlier, that starts to grow in the child, where the child does not want to be around the parent. The child becomes very anxious. Anxiety that was never there before starts to grow. And they start to second guess a lot of things. I ain't sure, I know, I don't think so. Oh, that thought that was never there before. Once it was, yeah, daddy will say you want to go to the park. Yes. No, it's I ain't sure, I don't know, I ain't sure. You look at the weather, yeah, all that kind of stuff. And that is where you start to see the second guessing.
Okay. Gentlemen, I'm going to ask you all to just flow. We're all together here as colleagues and friends with this interest. Go ahead.
I just was joining there. Yeah, you would definitely see a change in the behavior from the child. You will see the emotional instability because now their reality is being questioned. Even when a narcissist is working with a spouse and a grown adult, it makes the person start to question their own reality. You know, this didn't happen when it happened, you know, and it's almost they're bombarded with the information. So imagine now a child that is looking at this parent as a person who they look up to, who's framing their world, and now they made a child, oh, that is not how you see it, and that is not this. And the manipulation. Can you see that she doesn't love you or he doesn't love you, whoever that narcissist? So they start to skew whatever the parent is doing. Because likewise, let's say the person that is a narcissist, we say he's a guy, the child is with him. So he would call the mother and says, Johnny don't feel good, right? And therefore Johnny's looking for mommy to turn up. And then he goes to Johnny and says, oh, you see your mother don't turn up? She ain't care nothing about you. Da da da. And it's like this continuous you trying to create evidence of this person, and therefore the child now starts to believe that the construct of the reality that they're creating for them is, and that causes the child now to behave differently among that parent. So the same Johnny now that would have become running towards the parent is now second guessing, not sure, sitting away from, don't let this happen. So there's a lot of information downloaded by that narcissistic person. And he tried to separate them from other people, right? He's trying to gain those relations with other people. They're trying to separate you from them. So the child can get an isolated mode. And yes, the brain starts to sometimes implode for the child. So that child would have been thriving socially and academically. All of a sudden, the child starts to come inside itself. So this extroverted child becomes very quiet. They do a lot of gazing. They play internally. They don't externally play. The academics start to be challenged, right? And this also can cause people going on to different spectrums within their personality development. So if we have a trained, teachers may see certain things and say, well, Joy be behaving differently, or the parent now sees the child behaving differently, because it must understand the child had gained the trust of the parent. Our parents are the person we gain trust with, and therefore you start to see a difference in their behavior.
Reverend Phils?
Just to add that one of the things that is significant about parental alienation is that there's often an exaggeration, which was mentioned before, of minor faults. Nothing significant, but just minor faults of the alienated parent, and this continuous creating of false narratives, which again was also mentioned about this conflict in emotions, because if you had this good relationship previously with the parent, and it's like the alienator is now creating this dividing loyalty. And so, in one sense, you're wondering if you should still facilitate this relationship with the parent that you once had a relationship. But on the other hand, you're remembering how the other parent is continuously highlighting these other things. And another thing is that the alienator, you would see where they try to rationalize their behavior. They try to find ways and means to show that whatever they are sharing, whatever they are highlighting, is for the child's best interest, and help them to genuinely believe that they are doing whatever they are doing for the child's best interest. And also, as mentioned before, you will see this being played out in other aspects of the child's life, in school, changes in academic performance. Also, you may see some changes as well, and it may be noticed from the extended family, who will, again, before they used to enjoy normal relationship, spending time with the alienated parent, but they will now see, this change in time spent, and restrictions being put around this.
And the important thing to note is that it comes over as though it is the child's choice, as though this is daddy, I don't want to see you, mommy, I don't want to see you. And we're going to include both because it can happen to both parents. But as we talk about the alienated parent, talk to us then about the responses, because we know what the natural response is. But Johnny, I really love you. I miss you. And, we haven't spent any time together. You don't miss daddy. And you hear the response you don't ever want to hear. No, you understand. And the alienated parent is wounded. The alienated parent is struggling to figure out what is going on. What have I done to end up in this situation? And it is really a painful thing. What the natural responses, okay, to beg, to cajole, to bribe, to offer, oh, if you come, I will offer you this and such like. But as we did mention, the narcissist who is the alienator is very, very good at manipulating situations, manipulating these offers to make them seem as though there is a hidden or not so hidden ulterior motive. He doesn't really love you. He doesn't really want to be with you. I think that, you should stay with me and you're safe here. How does the alienated parent, what's the best response now that they're seeing this thing and trying to figure out what is going on with their children? What is the best way to start? I'm going to start with Sinclair.
Well, I don't think it's as cookie cutter because the situations are so complex, so different. There's marriages in there, there's relationships moving on. How many children? They might be the gender of the child, who things are being done. But on a very basic level, sometimes there's not much you can do because you are also the victim. Yeah. And a lot of the systems are used against you. One of the things I do advise people, let me say for men, to be consistent. Yeah, be consistent in your behavior, be consistent in your turning up. You have to be relentless, not you fighting against them, but relentless in showing your love towards the child. Because the child will come to a place where they start to weigh the evidence. They start to weigh the evidence of what was my reality compared to, that was painted to me as this, drunkard or womanizer or beater or whatever. But all my life, I've never seen dad do this. I've never seen dad hit me. I've never seen, I've seen that in a marriage. I've seen that in this. I've seen that in these things. So they start to weigh these scales eventually and see. But the hard part is I read the Bible, you go from one verse to the other, and somebody from one verse to the other is 50 years, right? So you actually got to live out that 50 years. So the challenge now is the consistency of living out the day by day while you're being estranged from your child, while you're going to get your child from the nursery, and the nursery is saying you can't get your child as a man. You're going to the school, and then it's like you can't see your child because of these stories that are being told. Yeah, and then family members and so forth also having this picture of you. Because the strange thing about it, and especially for men, is that people are so quick to believe a story about a man, right? Somebody just have to say, he was doing this, without any evidence at all. Everybody go, only thought he was a nice guy. I can't believe you're doing this to this person. So the challenge for a lot of men is actually walking that out. So my thing when it comes to children, and I see the child behave in a particular way, if the child is in that maturity and space, we can have a discussion without trying to dog the other parent. So it shouldn't go into you now start to do counter to what they're doing. Because then it puts the child in the middle, and that is unhealthy for the child every day of the week. You can have a child, a conversation, daddy loves you. Just want to know that I will never leave you. I'm always here for you. You using Ronald Pope's statements, he said, plant those seeds, right? The thing about it, one plant seeds, another water, God's increase. So saying I love you is one of the first things that the Father said to Jesus, this is my son of whom I'm well pleased. So why would he have to say that, right? The thing about it, these are principles that we use. You have the child and you say, I love you. You look the child I love you. I will always be here for you. I would never leave you. As much as that child, remember that brain of that child is still developing. The problem is that we have to deal with present tense, the rejection and the abandonment, but the child brain is still developing. And the thing about it, plant seeds, plant seeds, plant seeds, plant seeds. Yes, we be hurting. Yeah, we feel rejected. The child is not coming to me. The child is getting weird, but we plant those seeds because we have to recognize that our words, and God has anointed men's words and voices to plant seeds. It's not just from our loins, it is from the loins of our spirit, right? Just as we speak. And so maybe think we are victims to this, and we can be. But God has given us an authority, even when crazy is happening, to speak to situations. And there's prayer, yes. But I'm telling you, looking your child in the eye and let them know I love you. The problem is that we don't always get the reaction we want, yeah, or the response we want. But we gotta understand we are planting seeds. And I will say this last thing and then pass on. And I'm not trying to be all spiritual here, but I'm just saying these are principles that work. These are part of the counseling process that I use. Because I believe our Bible is our constitution, and somebody just read it as a religious book. But in Malachi it says, turn the father's heart towards his sons, and the children's heart towards his sons. It was one of the commissions of John the Baptist also, right? And it said, least the land be cursed. So when we see, as we started with the things on the block and the violence, the aggression, stuff like that, that is a result of the hearts of children, not towards the fathers, right? And the heart's fathers, not towards the children. And they're lost. They don't have an identity, okay? So as an individual, we cannot save the whole world, but we can save these pockets of community. So as men, I say we plant seeds. So that is one of the main things. Well, we may have to go through the gossip and the innuendo and the character assassination and all the different manipulations. My thing that we just plant seeds while we're going through it.
I'm gonna ask you, Sinclair, before you pass on, to make that practical. And I'm gonna ask Reverend Phils and Mr. Pope to do the same thing. Make it practical. Give us some practical ways in which we can make sure that our consistency and commitment is demonstrated. That we even when things, for instance, one of the things I was thinking just now is even when the child says, okay, no, I don't want to come or whatever, you can show up. Yeah. Okay, the child has said, I don't want to come on Saturday or whatever, but you show up and you say, sure, I came just in case you want to, so I'm thinking that's a practical way. Yes. And I want each of you, as you examine this response of the alienated parent, to put some practical things there as well. Sinclair.
Yeah, and I love you started with that one. That is number one. Children know when you show up. right? I find that as men, we've lost our backbone. Like we give up so easy, right? We do this whole disconnect, disassociate, shut down, walk away. We learned that from women. I'm sorry. That was never man's man, right? As soon as we get very tender now, we are very tender. We either have tender or aggression, right? And I believe that men should be dangerous, but should be controlled. I don't believe that you have to be spineless to be a Christian. I think we should be dangerous. We should be dangerous men, but should be controlled. Nobody should be able to poke the bear and release the bear. What I'm just saying is, as you said, like I'm going to turn up and I come and say, just to see, like I brought some snacks for you. I did that. You know me, because the child already knows that mommy told me to tell you I don't want to go. That means the heart of the child don't want to come, but they have to do what the mother is saying or the parent is saying. You know what I'm saying to you? Like children, you
They're
know, you hear
guided. They're being guided by
interesting joke
this
where it says,
alienator.
yeah, if you hear a joke where it says, you know, the person come to the Indian guy comes to collect his money. Oh, let me tell you that, you know, she not home, right? Or you know what I mean? So why that is funny, you could see the light, but the child has to present the light. Okay. If I know that I love you, I know you are a child, and something has maybe get offended by the child because maybe not developed manners yet. You know what I'm saying to you? Oh, my child say you don't love me, and all of a sudden, oh, you say you don't love me? Well, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? What are you talking about? We grown. You know what I'm saying to
Yeah,
you? Like
yeah.
our pursuit for our children is that Christ, you know, Christ first. It's simple. Somebody we will be hurt. We will cry, we'll feel bad. My thing is my child would always know that I pursued it. So you go for the child and the child is sitting there, you can see the child wants to come or the child, you know, is back you, but the framing of that child. But even as counselors, ministers, if we do this work enough, there are many people that come and they never met their father. They cannot tell you who their father is. They cannot tell you if I'm their father, Graham Vaughn is their father. The parent did not even give them a slight indication of who their father is. I mean, and if that is not abusive, I don't know what is. You get what I'm saying to you? Yeah. And yes, some men they don't even know they have a child. Maybe it's just unfortunate. But if we know the child is ours, I'm telling you, the school is there. We could call the school. We can have a, you know, don't go out the school and da da da. We're not trying to terrorize the place. But my thing is, the child will see me. They play football, they play cricket, they play basketball. I'm going to make sure I was, because I know there will be a day. God has designed children. Yes. And they tell any guy, you have to be consistent because children will come and look for you as especially boys, but around 11, 12, 13, about is 8 years old, 8, 9, 10, is when children look for their fathers. 11, 12, 13 is another time they go looking for their fathers. At 18, 19, 20, 21 is another time they go looking for their fathers. Those are the 3 times children will go and seek their fathers. Every father is available physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, and tell the guys, build an environment for the child will come looking for you, guaranteed. Because God made it that way. And sometimes
So
we
just
have
be
to
ready.
walk. Yeah, just be ready. You just be ready because it is, look, I mean, please not trying to hog the program. But I'm saying is, I think one of our biggest issues, um, we don't know who we are. I honestly don't think we understand who we are, right? And I think we have allowed ourselves to become victim of systems, right? And what I mean by that is God created us, and this is not a chauvinist statement. This is a factual thing. This is practical. God created us in his image and his likeness, okay? A child will have a natural inclination to find its father. It will. It has to. God designed it that way. Our job is to be consistent. I'm not saying we are not going to hurt. We will go through a lot of hurts, especially when we deal with a narcissist. But I can guarantee you this, and any counselor that does the work and all those pastors and stuff, people always want their father. Always. Right? But we believe this lie that, you know, and it's not a competition, but we believe the lie between the two parents that mothers are the better parents, and it's factually not true. And until we raise men to understand that, we need to understand that we're having a child, but the truth of the matter, the child has 99.9% of my DNA, right? And so therefore it is mine. And you know, you can carry the Timbuktu, and it's still mine, and I will pursue my child. So the practicality, going back to your Vaughn is saying, is showing up, find out where that child is thing. And you're not harassing the system, but you're saying, you know what, this child, man, this child will see. If it's one, this child will guarantee will see me making an effort coming towards child.
Mr. Pope, you're muted, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yes, yes, yes. Love what you said. Love what you said, Mr. Brown. Um, Everything you said, I probably would mirror exactly what you said. One of the things you said was consistency. So one of the things that the alienated parent can do is provide consistency. I had a case last year where these two youngsters were living with the mom. They hardly ever spent time with the father. The mom spent years destroying the father's reputation. And it came to the point where the father used to go to the school every day, the primary school every day, take money for the boys, bring money for the boys, bring food, groceries for the boys. And he did that from primary school all the way into secondary school. Within the secondary school time frame, um, I can't say what happened, but the court eventually let the two boys go and live with their father. And they were so happy to go and live with their father. And they recognized that the mother spent basically from birth, from the time they were born, from the time they were 13, 14, just as we say in Barbados, bad talking the father, playing that narcissistic role. And both youngsters looked at me and to tell me, Mr. Port, my mom, she was a narcissist. She destroyed my father's reputation. But you can see the father's consistency. He came to the primary school every single lunchtime. He brought lunch for the boys. He brought money for the boys. He brought groceries for the boys. Every Friday, he would bring groceries for the boys and he would consistently be in their lives. So consistency is the key. So you can let your children know that you are there, that you showed up. They could never, ever, ever say you did not show up. And also another real life story, I know this young lady who, she herself put one-on-one together, as we say in Barbados. She put one-on-one together and she recognized, some of the things that my my mother saying about my father don't seem to be true. And when she got older, she figured out on her own, my father isn't he is a bad person. So consistency is the key. When she went and stayed with her father, she recognized my father wanted to be in my life. He cared about me. And she as I said, she put one-on-one together. Also,
Can
it's
I
very
ask you? Oh,
yeah. You say
no,
something?
I just wanted to ask you about the time frame.
Mhm.
We mentioned earlier about hurting and having that pain,
Yeah.
but so that's about a decade then that
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
father in the case of the
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah. It was a decade. It was a decade.
So consistency over the space of 10
Oh yeah.
years
Yeah.
to be able to, well, that's some patience right there. I think
That's some patience.
was the father's name Job?
No, but just support us, sis, and please, that's what I'm saying to us is that sometimes we don't understand. Somebody takes longer than 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, the problem is that we think if we do it once or twice, but it is a long-term commitment.
It's a long-term thing. Right? And it
Reverend
pays off.
Phils.
It pays off in the end, because when your child comes to you after 10 years, 5 years, 1 year and says, Daddy, I love you, Mommy, I love you, and they figure out for their own, it is a great feeling.
Reverend Phils.
I just want to kind of add to in relation to the whole issue of consistency, meaning that because it's a as both persons were saying, Mr. Brown and Mr. Pope, they were saying about it's for the long haul. It's in for the journey. It's not
Playing the
over.
long game.
And one of the things I want to add to that is that how therefore you position yourself and um, develop yourself to be able to be in that for the long haul and consistently. So you don't get yourself mixed up in terms of in the fighting and in the wrong position, but really just be there and wait it out. And one of the things I want to share is about the parent, whether father or mother, whoever is the alienated parent, about focusing on becoming a whole person. focus on becoming a whole person. And what I mean is that, you see, in the kingdom of God, when you refer to someone being single, is really referring to a whole person. And in fact, in the Bible, when it speaks about peace or shalom, it really speaks of a state of wholeness or completeness, not necessarily just the absence of conflict or where you have, or you're in a situation where you have cooperation. That's, in other words, that's why Jesus had to say, "My peace I give to you, my peace I leave with you, not as the world gives." And so when I say in terms of becoming a whole person, is that I say it because in order to be your best self, and not only for yourself, but for your children and even others are in any relationship, you also have to work on becoming a whole person. Because a lot of our relationships that are broken and you know don't go well in terms of reconciliation, it's because oftentimes persons are coming from a place of, well, all of us are born in sin, with a sin nature, and we come into this world broken. And but we have been given a hope in Jesus, to be able to become that whole person. And so, added to that, what I mean as well is that, you see, when you are whole, you are less vulnerable to certain kinds of manipulations that may be tried by the alienating parent. So you don't feel as if you are, you know, in other words, you don't need a relationship with somebody else to be whole. You don't need simply to be able to have your child loving you, to be that whole person. Rather, so you don't need marriage and all of that. Because sometimes persons view finding a spouse as that person now coming to make me whole, that person completing. So I'm sharing this to say that, because if you want to be in it for the long haul, it requires you then to find your satisfaction, find your joy, find your peace from a different source. It requires you to not be looking to, you know, because again, 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, that's a long time. And when you find yourself, your relationship in God, and you find that satisfaction in God, for your soul, deep within, it helps you to no longer just be looking for someone to complete you, but rather you have been completed by God, and now you are more outward looking. So whereas you are now journeying with this, not as necessarily, yes, you are the victim in this situation, but no longer a victim in terms of looking for affirmation, looking for, you know, that kind of peace and satisfaction. And so it helps you and positions you, just as the Bible tells us and teaches us that one of the results of being in Christ and living a life in God, in Romans 12, coming closer to the end, it tells you of the marks of a true Christian. And one of the significant marks is that we don't ever repay evil with evil, but rather we repay evil with good. And one of the other significant factors is love. And so, in terms of practicality, in terms of becoming this whole person, so I would say, well, firstly, that again, this may be in terms of a bias, in terms of I'm not sure who are our listening audience, but I could say, from my experience and as growing up and also coming to know Christ, that I believe one of the best ways to fight this journey, going this journey, is to find your hope, your satisfaction, and have a relationship with God. Come to know God. And you come to know God by one part, finding a church family if you have not. and naturally a Bible believing church family, where they can help you in coming to know God, to be discipled in Christ, and also to help you again. Not this is not just one dimensional. So firstly, because the spiritual is what I believe guides everything and is foundational to everything. But as you get that spiritual foundation through the church family and through your own personal relationship with God, then as my brothers who are here, others who can help you with other holistic development. And I think that will aid in helping that consistency to come, from a place out of relationship with God. That sharing of love, rather than reacting to what you may be meted out to you by the alienate, the alienating parent, or the child that may come periodically. So that's what I will offer. In addition.
I thank you very, very much, Reverend Phils, because I think that is absolutely critical, because we were talking about the response of the alienated parent to the situation. And I think that's absolutely critical. The fact that you have said you do not repay evil with evil, but repay evil with good. And I think that we need to understand that the evil, especially when you recognize it's coming from the other spouse, your repaying good is not just to the spouse, to the ex, to the person who is manipulating your child, but to the child itself. Because everything that y'all have talked about, the gentleman going to the school and taking food and all of these different things, that has really been about the response to the child, not to the spouse. And on Tuesday, one of the things that was said is that we can make sure that as this happens, as this situation develops, that we make sure that we are aware, and that what our behavior, okay, is tailored to avoidance of the conflict. The narcissist tends to push a conflict. The narcissist tends to look for a battle, because again, as we said, there is this I must win. And in order to win, there has to be a battle. There has to be something going on. And one of the recommendations on Tuesday was walk away. Don't give them a battle. Don't give them a fight. And if you are just showing up to give your children snacks, to give your children, there's no police officer, I think, in the world is going to do that. In fact, that came up. I'm here following the conversation on Facebook, and that came up because a person said, well, you think any father is going to want to turn up at the school and have the police called on him? Do you think any father is going to want to show up at the game and somebody start pointing it out, and you got people coming around and saying, we were told that you are a problem. Is there a problem here, sir? And getting harassed. But I think that it comes back actually to something I think Ronald hit on. No, sorry, it was Sinclair. We are men, and a mature man has to be willing to take some blows. We have to be able to do like Jesus and say, you missed this spot, put my back there. Turn the other cheek. Look, you didn't get this one yet. We're so quick to react and boil over, but we got to be able to take the poking of the bear and tell the bear, no, you can't go, not yet. Talk to us about legal recourse. That has come up in the chat on Facebook. Legal recourse. Is there anything that you gentlemen know of?
Well, I can say I have worked within the legal system, and one of the things I will recommend to any, you know, man that I'm listening, woman that I'm listening, any parent who might be the victim of parental alienation, keep all your records. Keep all your records, keep all the conversations, keep all the bills if you have to, keep all the records because you can take that to court. That is evidence that you can take to court and say, this is what I bought for my child, this is the medical bills that I paid, this is the school fees that I paid. You can keep the records, you can present the records in court as evidence. Also, as I said, keep all the conversations. If you want to record conversations, but I will advise, and similar to what you said, do not get into any argument or battle with narcissists, male or female. Don't engage in their game or drama or attention-seeking behavior. Don't get involved in that. That could turn out where the narcissist can turn that into something we call gaslighting. One report likes to call it psychological spin. So if any of you ever hear that word going around, psychological spin, that's where they spin the story and met the other person, the perpetrator, the problem, the issue. Why are you showing up at the school? Why? And believe you me, they do it in the courtroom too. And the judges get, oh my goodness, she or he did such a good job, and they fall for it. So be careful of psychological spin or what we call gaslighting, where they can spin the story and make the parent who is the alienated um, become a picture of being the monster, the problem, the issue. So be careful of that. So stay away from an argument so that if they do go to court, if there is some kind of legal recourse that, they can paint the picture and say, oh, on July the 4th, he come at my house and he had an argument. That and the person might have come and had a little discussion about seeing each other every other week. So that turned into an argument, and then that could turn into be that parent being the enemy. So be very careful. Any males out there, females out there listening that are alienated, don't get into those arguments. But as I said before, keep all the records. As I said, I have been involved in these cases before. Keep all the records. They can be presented in court, and that's hardcore evidence where any magistrate can see, oh, you did pay the health insurance. You did buy the groceries every month. You did pay the medical bills when the child was sick, and keep your records. You're muted.
I was saying there really isn't any other way to prove your love and demonstrate your love, except by that. People can't look into your heart. And if you've kept a comprehensive record of your actions, that then bodes better for you.
Correct. I know some persons, sometimes persons on WhatsApp or whatever, they will keep the conversations, screenshot the conversations. So, you could do all those things. Because people cannot, as you said, see within your heart. If you go to court, the magistrate can't see, once you have the evidence there and the evidence is consistent, you see, they can't argue with consistency. They can see this man is serious. This woman is serious. They really care about this child. And I have seen magistrates before recognize the consistency and say, you know what? This child should go and live with his parent. I have seen it happen. Those are the happy ending stories, though. Those are the happy ending stories.
Gentlemen, I thank you very much. Oh, sorry, continue. I did ask you all to be able to bounce off of one another and flow. You don't have to wait for me to continue.
I was just saying that legally is very difficult. And I think I think we can comfortably say that at this international, that the court system more leans towards women more so than men. Yeah. And understandably so, because there's a system to protect, and every time a person being a weaker gender or a person can easily be taken advantage of. So you can understand it leaning in a sense, but then it's the overly leaning, the overt leaning legally, be it the first line of be it police officers, right? You're guilty even before all person have to call and say, he did this or he threatened me or he beat me or without anything, we are already guilty. Without even having a chance. And so if you're dealing with a narcissist, they will use all these systems because they make sure they look good. For men, there are many people that the child get lashes. And this actually cause some men not to fight because then the child may respond to, as you said, the consistency. We turn up and the child does respond positive, which is counter to what the parent told them to do. And then the child gets beat, unmercifully while they're there with the parent. So now you don't want the child to get abused. So what do? You pull back because you don't want to keep pushing that envelope. So for a lot of people, they find themselves don't want to push, so that the child won't get abused in the spaces. So, but for legally, it's very difficult. And some people, some actually use the legal system to create parental alienation. But some people actually use the legal system, yeah, and they were talking about visitation rights and all these different things. So eventually, they would even manipulate the legal system in a way to have the law on their side to make sure that child doesn't have a relationship with that parent. That's it.
All right. I think that is a pretty comprehensive look at some positive responses. Now, I want to dive into, Ronald talked about the happy ending versions. I want us to dive into, for a moment, the not so happy ending versions. You've been fighting for years. You have felt like you showed up. Whether or not you actually did, you may have done these things and not kept the receipts. You may have done all kinds of different things. And it has been years. It's been that decade that we talked about or more. And nothing seems to be changing. And we did speak to men. We spoke about fathers going and doing this and such like, but mothers are involved as well. Mothers can be the alienated spouse in the situation, the alienated parent in the situation. Talk to us about, and I think Duran, Reverend Phil's hinted to it a little bit earlier. What I would really like to hear come out of this part. We talked about, in the interim, what are you doing with yourself, right? Talk to us about give that alienated parent some hope for the future, some hope for themselves if this relationship never heals, if they never see what are they supposed to be doing in this time that they have been doing this fight. And we didn't hear from you, Reverend Phils, just now. I'm going to come to you. What should this alienated parent be doing? It's been 10 years. It has been, they've been reaching out to this person. They've tried to get legal recourse. They've been fighting the good fight, whether or not it's perfectly, but they are despondent. They're despairing. Where should they be? Where should they have been? And where should they be? Where should they be focused going forward, as far as looking for a place of hope, even if not in this relationship?
I think I'll basically pick up from same thing I was saying in relation to becoming a whole person, because one psychologist said that one of the mistakes that is often made by the alienated parent is that they pursue reconciliation with the child, or pursue within the situation from the basis of looking for fairness, looking for justice, looking for fairness to happen. And that's a mistake, because in many ways, as you pursue and the varying scenes of life that you will meet in this situation will be very much unfair. Many of the challenges and that you will go through will feel very much unfair, and sometimes may land you almost feeling as if it is at a dead end. So I say that to say that back with the same thing about becoming a whole person, because what that does, and whole person again means that wholeness, according to what I believe within Christianity, wholeness can only be found in God. When man is reconnected, reconciled with God, God who raised Jesus Christ from the dead, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, that you can find become whole. And so wholeness really comes from the presence of God. And what that does as well is that it places your hope, it shifts your hope from simply just the situation, but your hope is now in God and what God is able to do. And so because again, as you go, because this is not an overnight situation. This is again, well, every situation is different, but you will face many challenges and many different things, and you want to have a solid foundation. And I'm saying that the best foundation for your hope is that to have a hope in God through Jesus Christ. Just to share a bit of the gospel, that so Jesus, when Jesus went to the cross and he died, and many persons whom he was trying to convince, the disciples and others, about the hope, and that he will rise again in 3 days. And many were, despondent, and many could not see past. He said it, but they just could not, because the situation was consuming them, the challenges and what was they're going through, the real emotions. However, Jesus died, and persons thought, well, that was the end of it. That the perpetrators have won. And one of the things I have discovered in my own personal life, and also in working with persons, and even the testimonies from the Bible, testimonies such as Joseph, Job, and others, is that God specializes in using challenges, using trials, using the hardships, not just to give us an end result, but in the midst of the challenges and the hardships, he uses the journey to build us up. And so our focus and our hope is not just simply to see simply a turnaround in the situation, but our hope now is simply in God, and just living for God. And as an outshoot of that, you then see different things about how God is able to. Now, sometimes, even being in God's wisdom, things don't have a happy ending. but you can still be and find satisfaction in that you have put forward, you have pleased God in terms of how you have taken up your responsibility, being consistent, showed up, and so forth. And that because now your relationship and your hope now shift because your focus is on in terms of because God now comes first in your life. And so that's what I would like to offer in relation to that.
Yeah, jumping in there. Some negatives. Just saying, yes, it doesn't mean because you do the formula that there's gonna be reconciliation. Yeah, the child may actually grow up to hate you as a parent, right? Because the brain and the mind has been so poisoned against you that even as a grown person, you see your child and your child walks through town and they walk straight past you, right? And that is hurtful. It is yeah, very, very hard. Yeah. Because once again, being with the narcissistic person, that depending on the environment, depending on the culture, depending on a lot of things, that sometimes even if we talk about the consistency showing up, turning up, that the child has decided that based on what's inside their head, their perspective, how they see it, you are not a good parent based on so the alienation now has worked. The alienation against this parent now, the victim has worked. And you being the victim now have to take no not just the challenge of the parent that was narcissistic. No, you got a fruit of that loan that is also even doesn't have a healthy relationship with you, right? And we can we can see elements. I mean, we see elements of that even with David with his children. To be quite honest, David was a man of God's own heart. But one of the things, two things, you can't find text to say how to be a good husband, how to be a good father from David. You might find good text for worship, but not for those two elements. And you will see that his children, even Absalom comes to the point that, he's almost like a woman father to die, right? And he's pursuing his child. His child has that desire to not have that innate relationship, intimate relationship. So if you have that same pursuit for the child, but the child doesn't like the best bone inside of you. And that is hard. That is a very difficult position to be the victim now of the narcissist. But the child now has become now full-fledged. And now, despite the efforts that we put in, the 10 years, the 15 years that you've put in, this boy doesn't like you, this daughter doesn't like you. And that can be very difficult. Yeah. And I do believe therapy is one of those things that as an individual to deal with that pain. Yeah, because it's a very hard thing, to be quite honest. So nobody has to make sure to walk on by yourself with. I think we should find out a men to walk through that with. Other brothers and sisters and counselors that we can get. Find out that hurt, that pain, and allow yourself to walk through that is very, very difficult. So that's the bad part of those things where there are many cases that the system works for the narcissist and the child
But
actually doesn't.
Mr. Brown, I hear you right, but you know, I did try so long, I did
Yeah.
really, I
It's
did
just like marriage. You
everything,
got some
man.
people that they give their heart to the spouse just don't like them anymore. You can love, you can buy flowers, you buy gifts, you can lick their toes. They just don't like you. Right?
At the heart of this situation is really a truth that I think we definitely need to raise and elevate. That the only person in this situation that you can control is you.
Yeah.
The only person you can guarantee what their response is going to be and tell them, look, this is how you're going to do something is you.
Yeah.
You cannot guarantee that you're going to get a response, a favorable response from either the child or children or the spouse or even the law courts or anybody else in the situation. The only person you really got on your side is you. I just want to say good evening and thank you to all the persons on the chats, both on Facebook and YouTube. Good evening. Just saying hello to Raul and Angela and Thomas, Doriel, Marjorie, and Judith. Good evening. It is good to have you here, and make sure that you spread the word about Family Fest Barbados. Our next panel discussion is going to be on Sunday, so we would definitely love to have you there as well. And remember that you can use the feedback on YouTube and Facebook to add your, not just your comments, but your questions to the panel of experts as well, to get their guidance in your particular situation, if you would like. Gentlemen, it has been very, very interesting. And I want to look at the alienated parent. And I did ask this on Tuesday. What about the social recourse and response in terms of family, in terms of church? And I'm talking about assistance now for this situation. Given the fact that we're dealing with narcissism, we're dealing with narcissists, is this a good idea? Is there a possibility that we can use the formula given in the Bible? We've gone to the alienated parent and said, look, this is something you're doing that I don't think is right. I don't like it. They haven't changed. So we carry, somebody that is familiar to us both. And we say, look, I'm bringing this person so that you can see, I don't want to fight. I don't want to, I just think that you're doing this wrong and I need you to change. That doesn't work. You carry them before the family or before the church and say, look, come, we need to change this. This is not about me. This is about your child. You're doing everything you can, right? Is this wise? This is a narcissist. This is a fight when backed into a corner sort of person. What do you say about that?
This is the alienated.
The alienated, trying to build a team, build allies, right, to assist in getting some sort of favorable response. Because let me be very very blunt. The narcissist wants to win and is going on like they have to win. But anybody wants to win. That's a natural feeling. That's a natural response. I do not want to lose. And especially when it comes to something as important and critical as family, as something as important and critical as relationship, as my child, I don't want to lose. Is this tactic and technique of bringing on a team of, we see sometimes on the international shows, they have interventions. We've got 15 people for your family here to tell you about being a drunkard. Is this a good idea?
This for the nurse or the child?
Addressing the narcissist. In fact, let's do both. Let's do both. Let's do both. Let's do both.
You must have said narcissism is a condition. It's like, say we got a bunch of people to have a discussion to get rid of cancer, right? So we get 15 people. Let's, you don't have cancer anymore. You still got cancer, all right? You know what I mean? You're not blind anymore. Like, no. Because people don't understand that we have not seen mental health in the same way we see physical health. Yeah? So we talk about mental health, and I thank God that we are in a better space that we could talk about mental health. But the same way we got physical health, we will look at your blood sugar, blood pressure, your cholesterol is high, you got issues with your scalp, or you got an ear or a nose or tongue condition, or there's so many areas of health, that we understand. But when it comes to mental health, we don't see it the same way. We see you're either stressed out, suicidal, depressed, all these things. So the same way we understand that there are spectrums within health, there's spectrum in mental health too. And narcissism is not something that is you can't have a conversation it is a syndrome. It is a system. It is no bending. There's no 15 people are come together and say, here's these 15 mirrors that you need to come to conviction and to change. That no. You're wasting your time. Like honestly, anytime a person's narcissistic it is hard, they cannot see themselves wrong. It is literally, it is only Jesus that can make them see it. Apart from that, they cannot, they do not have the capacity to do it. They would hear you, they'd be quiet for about 2-3 days a week the most, and the brain just recycles, the brain just resets. So intervention to getting nurses to see that they're being wrong in this situation. I said, apart from Jesus, I don't know internationally I've ever heard anybody that has been cured of it. I know we see people where a guy he speaks on it, and he speaks as a narcissist, speaking about how narcissists think. And he himself says this is not something you cure, it's just he has been intelligent enough to be able to have that capacity to speak on it, but not as a something you can say, like, do these interventions and this person would change.
What about the child?
Me or my other brothers?
Anyone, gentlemen. The floor is open.
Well, let me just touch on the narcissist. You're so right. It's very hard for those persons to change. Usually that's a personality disorder, and that is usually long term. Hopefully, some kind of intervention as far as counseling, and when I mean counseling, I mean long term counseling, along with some intervention from God, will help that individual. As far as the child is concerned, we're looking at something that's very serious. We see a lot of children who can sometimes be very defiant to their parents. So the alienated parent, the child is very defiant, very rude. As you said before, they might never even have a good relationship for a very long time. So you can see that child now has started to take on a very rebellious attitude towards the parent, the alienated parent. And I would recommend that child also has long-term counseling, because the brain now has now been hardwired now, basically. All that manipulation, all that brainwashing, the brain has now hardwired now to think a certain way. So now the victim, the child now, I want the persons who are listening to really get this part. You can turn your child into a narcissist too. I can say that again. You can turn your child into a narcissist too. It has happened. It has happened. Mr. Port has seen it. So yes, I would recommend that I would say multiple ways of intervention. I always believe in that structure, the structure the church, the structure the family, and also the professional counseling can work to see if they can help the child itself. I would hope that family has a strong support system, but if it doesn't, oh my word, if it doesn't, that child could simply slip and believe everything the parent has put in their head. So hopefully that is strong intervention. It could be the church, and I always talk about the church and church groups, church social groups, they help a lot. As well as counseling and the family. You have to have a strong family that believes, not one that gives up fast. Strong family that believes can help that child. So those are the levels of intervention you can have. And it must be a strong support for a very long time. You cannot work with a victim for a couple of weeks and just give up. Oh, this child real rebellious. They don't like it, father. I done with this child. No, you gotta look at it long term. So long-term intervention is something that is definitely needed. But let me just touch on something that Mr. Brown said earlier. I find too much of our Parents are too sensitive. Give it too fast. Don't put in the effort. And that's something that I can say about males and females. But our males, let me just talk about our males. Give it too fast, too sensitive. Always ready to quit. Can't quit. Whoever said that parenting was easy, there ain't a part in the Bible that says parenting is easy. There's no psychological books that says, hey, no, this is an easy job. You can talk to all the experts all around the world. None of them have written anything that said parenting is going to be easy. None of them. And if there's a breakup, if there's a divorce, no one said that that's going to be easy too. So I find that a lot of our parents too sensitive, always ready to quit. They don't put in that extra effort. And that helps a lot the children. They see the effort. They go, my father really cares. He's still around. My mother really cares. She's still around. So that extra effort really helps. And as far as support groups is concerned, any support group that sticks with that individual, works with that individual over a long period of time. I ain't saying you're gonna see. I'm not saying that you're gonna see results instantly, but I believe eventually, once you plant that seed, that child will recognize, you know what? My parent, my alienated parent really did love me. My family structure really loved me. Church really helped me. Yeah.
Rev, you go
I'll
on.
just, yes, I'll just like to echo two two things I heard coming out from my brothers in terms of the long-term intervention and holistic intervention. Because as you know, I think especially through well, partly through COVID-19 and the social media age, we have become a society that has been, more of the quick fixes and really not into longevity, perseverance, and to be stick to it. And so I want to endorse and to agree that well, one, the church has to be able to work with other entities. Just recently at one of the congregations I pastored, we had um, a session on mental health where persons from the psychiatric hospital came and also shared information in terms of and things that we didn't even know in terms of services that we can access and so forth. So there needs to be that greater not just collaboration, just one off, but like for example recognizing this problem of parental alienation, and groups need to now create a program of intervention that is there and prepared and ready, so that we could journey with this person on a long-term basis. And also what I like to emphasize as well, as the Bible tells us, all things are possible through Christ who gives us strength. And so I really believe that at the end of the day, that Jesus is the only one who can make that real transformation, because the transformation that we preach through the gospel is one that is first the internal that manifests on the outside. And so this transformation is a transformation that happens within the soul in a very supernatural way, and then it then starts to manifest in external ways. I would say in terms of that long-term intervention, holistic intervention, but I think foundational, I still come back to it, is that relationship with God.
I'm going to continue with you, Reverend Phils. Let's look at some of what you just talked about. You talked about mental health. You talked about let's look at the dangers to the alienated parent. This is something that is going to affect them. We've said so all along. Talk to us about the mental health issues that somebody who is facing this kind of a situation may need to be aware that they are at risk for, and what are some of the signs that they need to engage their support mechanisms, reach out and say, I need help.
Well, from the research I have observed and also been able to connect it with situations, but issues of anxiety and depression, also in relation to, especially in the case where you have to, it has really been a long haul, and in cases where but it has seemed as if the alienator has won, there's this profound sense of loss or injustice, because there's a replaying in the mind of, especially a lot for mothers as well, when you think back of all that you have done, and all that you have invested into this child, and because parents tend to, and I stress again even more so, you see, mothers would express that. Not that fathers don't do it, but mothers will be more expressive of it. That they basically gave their whole life for that child. So there's a profound sense of loss and injustice. And I stress that because one of the things I've often argued, I hear people say it, and I'm not necessarily in agreement fully with it, where they would say their family is everything, or their child is everything to me. If I were to lose this child, I don't know what I would do because they are everything. I think that's dangerous. And again, that's why I was stressing about becoming a whole person, because sometimes it is because we are positioned like that, where our love for our children supersedes almost everything, even God. We won't put it that way. We won't say that, but that's really what it is in reality. And so when we do lose, and it will hurt anybody. Don't get me wrong. Anyone, it will be a profound sense of loss, but it is devastating mentally, and devastating emotionally, when the child or family was at the pinnacle of your world. So I just stress that part.
I would like to just add that one of the things that you can see going on with the parent is that they can start to feel very depressed, and anxiety sets in. They can start to give up, and we do have individuals in Barbados who then get suicidal thoughts. So that's something that you can also look at, that as the Reverend said, when you say this is my world, and then your world comes crashing down, you can't see your child, you know, can start to get very depressed, and suicidal thoughts can set in. So that's something that you have to seriously look at. So hopefully that the family support is there, that can get that support for that individual, that counseling or support groups that can help that individual as they go through that rough period. Another thing that you can add to is that when you feel like you have lost, or there was an injustice, or the system didn't work out for me, you know, uh, you know, you find that men, and this is the honest truth, you find that men start to turn to other things, drugs, alcohol, and this is the reality. So hopefully the support system is there to work with that individual and get that individual back on their feet again, because being with a narcissist, when that relationship is finished, you start to doubt a lot of things, like your mind your mind, it doesn't work the same way as when you was not in that relationship. So that individual, will start to get negative thoughts. And I will hope, as I said, that there are persons who can help that individual, pull that individual out. And it could go the same way for women as well. They can also get negative thoughts and go down the line of doing negative things as well. So hopefully that the support group is there, the persons recognize, my uncle, my brother, my cousin is going through a rough patch, and help that individual out of that problem. Because we see a lot of men after the relationship has finished, they get very sad and they go to the rum shop and drink a whole set of alcohol. She ain't a good, she destroyed me, you know, all the stories. So that is no answer. Because when you don't drink all that alcohol, you still ain't feeling better, she still, you know, have legal custody of the child or is still winning, or he's still winning. So hopefully the supporters group there to pull that person out of that negative state. Yeah.
Yeah, it is not easy, as we mentioned, and just going with what Duran said is because we repeat things, we don't recognize repeat things, and it becomes part of our process. Yeah. Many of us, let me just say for men here for a second, is that for many men, because we don't know our definition becomes being a father, being a husband, being a worker, being a this, our occupation, our position in church. Um, because we have not established the fact that because I'm a man, I do things. I'm not doing things to be a man, right? And therefore, many times when the child is yanked from us, we lose our identity. Yeah. But we can even have very common narcissistic alienation from as far as abortion is concerned, right? Where you have no say because this person know that you want a child, the person decides, okay, you would never have a relationship with this child, and snatch that child away from you, and you have nothing. There's nothing you can do about it. And that is parental alienation because I want to be a father. I'm looking forward to being a father. And because of this situation, the person says, okay, I'm getting rid of this child. That is how deep this disease goes as far as narcissism is concerned, right? And therefore, you never get to see the child ever, right? You obviously you had a child, and God forbid you never was able to stare another child. You always gonna be ruminating with that child that was taken from you, and you didn't get a chance to see his face. So yes, that pain hurts. But the definition, I do agree that because we define ourselves by these things, what I mean, I put up with my child and this thing, my mother, whoever. But because we've not understood who we are, and what I was just saying is that our efforts towards the child, if we don't as a man being the one alienated, is that our definition is not resting on each other, but because of my definition is why I pursue the child. Yeah. And I find that helps a lot with, and we talk about the mental state of us people. We talk about for women also, the mental state of many of our women. We had a child, have the child doesn't speak to me anymore, living with the grandmother, living with the father, living inside the family, and they frame the woman as this horrible person. Let's say just quickly, let's say because of they convinced her she was young and say, you're young, let the child stay with us. We'll take care while you do that. And you took the advice and they brainwash the child. Oh, your mother never wanted you. Your mother never this. Your mother never that. So by the time she's saying she understands why her child is disconnected from her, and then they see the child say, "Well, you never wanted me." And this is because the same people that gave her advice when she was young were the same ones that manipulated the child, then to turn around, give them the narrative, "Oh, your mother left you here, or step, or your mother did this." So it is very hard, to be the victim of this and then have another person, the thing that you love so dearly, also reject you. But I'm just saying, while we're going through that turmoil, we should get people that are willing to sit with us through the pain. Is the thing that Job did. You know what I'm saying to you? Job lost everything, children, everything. Even his wife didn't check for him. The same person that's supposed to be there by his side, she was like, I'm not even nursing you. But you know what I mean? Job being that overthinker that he was, he's a very overthinking dude. But he had friends that understood his personality, right? They came and they just sat and kept quiet. You know what I mean? They didn't come in with the advice first. They didn't come in with anything first. They understood he was an introvert. They understood he was an overthinker. They just sat with it, right? We here for you, my brother. After several days, they get talking. So that was therapy. That whole process with Job was a therapy session, right? And therefore, he had a conversation with God. So it was an interesting dynamic. And I'm just saying, when we're going through devastation to get into, get through that season, I see Job then got out and then he was able to even increase. So we got to go through the season and allow people to counsel us through that process.
It's very interesting that you say that, because as we prepare to wrap up this evening's session, I think overwhelmingly, as we discuss the challenge of victims of parental alienation, especially the pain of the alienated parent, I am seeing that this really and truly is interesting that, Sinclair, you ended on Job, because this looks as though it's a situation that is really going to require the patience of not just Job, but God, because God works with us in tremendous patience, tremendous patience. God really plays the long game with humans. I
just want to add another. I just want to add this other formula. It was three things. Yeah, it was the patience of Job. It was God, but it was also the friends. Right? Jesus grew in favor of God and man. Samuel grew in favor of God and man. So we can be so vertically centered that we forget the horizontal. Right? That part of having those guys sit with him. Right?
It's not good that man should be alone.
It's not good, right? So we think it's a woman. But David, the guy that was close to him was a dude, you know what I'm saying? It was, you know what I mean? It was that guy that he loved more than the brother. So we don't understand that God designed us to connect and to love, right? And that is the part we don't understand. The therapy and all of this is connection with another human being, right? So man, as we are hurting, we are struggling. I just lost my child. My child is not speaking to me anymore. And that pain made me think, yes, you need therapists, you need counselors, but some days just sitting with a brother. I know what to tell you, big man, but I hear. You know what I mean? I ain't know the deep psychological whatever, but here we, brother, we can just sit down and I ain't no sit down and sit down. You know what I mean? Just having that company, the energy that God creates. We have energy, we connect, and in so many levels. And that's what did for Job. It was God, it was Job's patient, but it was definitely that friendship. And we suddenly missed the fact that these dudes were with him. And that's really the process.
Gentlemen, I think this has been a comprehensive discussion, and there's been so much knowledge shared, so much to think about. And I really, really want to thank you for your time. I am truly moved, truly encouraged by the fact that this knowledge is now out there, and that those going through this situation can have a resource, thanks to you gentlemen, to be able to look at their situation from a different perspective and to gain insight as to how they can go forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is Family Fest Barbados, and I am your moderator for this Men's Week, as we discuss from the perspective of the men this situation, this issue of narcissism and parental alienation. We do thank you for being with us, whether you watch this live or you are watching this a little bit after. We do hope that the knowledge that you gain would encourage you and would assist you and help you on this journey if you are one of the people dealing with this really critical issue in our families. We thank all of those who have joined us on Facebook and YouTube. You can join us on social media at Family Fest Barbados, on Facebook, on our Instagram as well. And of course, you can subscribe on YouTube and hit the bell icon to be notified whenever we post and go live. This month of July, there's so much more to come. And you make sure and join us this Sunday at 5:30 p.m., not 7:30 p.m. like the weeknights, but 5:30 p.m. for Hope for the Alienated Parent. We're going to be looking at that and making sure, in addition to the encouragement given this evening, we're really going to be looking at how you can hold your head high as an alienated parent, a victim of parental alienation in this situation, specifically as a man. Don't forget, next week is we're featuring the women. We're looking at narcissism and parental alienation from the perspective of the women, and the week after that, from the perspective of the children. Of course, you're not going to want to miss that. That's going to be very important, especially if you have been a victim as a child of narcissism and parental alienation. If you've been pulled away from one of your parents by another parent. And then the last week in July, we're going to bring it all together and look at it from a whole family perspective. So you're not going to want to miss any of this in Family Fest Barbados 2024 or July panel discussions on narcissism and parental alienation. I'm Graham Vaughn. Thank you so very much for being with us. Shalom.
We're Family Fest, giving our best, empowering families to be the pillars of society. Family Fest, bringing healing and rest to hurting families, bringing help, hope, healing, happiness. With God on our side, we're marching strong, looking out for hurting children all around. Helping the parents carry on. Standing united, we'll overcome. We're Family Fest, giving our best, empowering families to be the pillars of society. Family Fest, bringing healing and rest to hurting families, bringing help, hope, healing, happiness.